The Titans got snubbed. 0 Pro Bowlers. We're going to break down why that's a travesty. Just kidding. Just kidding. The Titans don't deserve any Pro Bowlers. No, we're going to talk about should the Titans tank or not tank in Week 18 against Houston. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin, Melo, and Justin. The Pro Bowl teams were announced, and the Titans got zero players on the Pro Bowl. What do you think?
Yeah, well, they had 4 alternates, right? So I guess that's something. Jeffrey Simmons, Amani Hooker, Tony Pollard, and Ryan Stonehouse are the 4 alternates. What I think is this. I think it ties into this weekend's game. You know, I wrote a pretty good article. I think at least it was good on their lack of Pro Bowlers and how it sort of ties in to them needing to lose this weekend. Because I'll be honest with you, every time I try to analyze this season, I struggle with this roster is not that bad. In my opinion, it's not. It's not devoid of talent. And it's not a roster that's devoid of talent. It's not the Ken Wisenhunt 2014 roster, where it's like Antonio Andrews and Dexter McCluster and Bishop Sankey. Like, you know what I mean? It's a lot better than that roster was. Where I keep, that's where I have a difficult time. Again, you know, Brian Callahan, Ron Carthon, the whole thing. What I keep coming back to, where it's bad, is a lack of superstar talent. And that is sort of represented in their lack of Pro Bowlers. And by the way, in case you're overly biased and naive and say, oh, it's a small market thing, Titans were one of 4 teams that did not have a Pro Bowler. Those teams include big markets like the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. And the Titans have the fewest wins of all the teams that don't have a Pro Bowler. So absolutely, they did not deserve a Pro Bowler. There's no doubt about it, right? So getting back to the roster thing, I keep going with they don't have any true superstars, game changers, guys that can dig you out of a hole, swing momentum, swing a result. They've got none of those types. And on top of it, they lack high-end talent at premium positions. All their needs this offseason, unfortunately, even though, again, it's a roster that's not devoid of talent, it's one that needs a quarterback, an offensive tackle, an edge rusher, like the most important positions. So that's what I think kind of leads to why they're 3-13, why they don't have any Pro Bowlers, no superstars, yada, yada. So I probably got a little long-winded there for our intro, but that's what I think about them not having a Pro Bowler. And we'll talk about it more because I think it ties in into their need to lose this weekend and how there are some really good premium players guaranteed to be available to them. And by the way, a very weak draft class that lacks many of those types. If they lose, they'll be guaranteed a shot to take one of them.
And that is a great segue into our main topic today, to tank or not to tank. The Shakespearean question of the Tennessee Titans season here as we look at the matchup with the Houston Texans coming to town. So yes, the Titans currently hold the 2nd pick in the draft. There is a path to the 1st pick in the draft. If the Patriots, who Gerard Mayo says are playing to win, planning to start Drake May, assuming he's healthy enough to go, against a Bills team that will trot Josh Allen out for a series or 2 to keep his consecutive starts streak alive, and then turn the reins to Mitch Trubisky, if that Patriots team can beat that Bills team, who has nothing to play for, and the Titans lose to the Texans, the Titans will have the number 1 pick in the draft. Conversely, the Titans, if they win, for each of these following results, the Titans will move down 1 pick in the draft if they win and the Ravens beat the Browns. That's a pick. The Eagles beat the Giants. The Colts beat the Jaguars. The Falcons beat the Panthers. And the Dolphins beat the Jets. Now, some of these teams on the left side of my list there are not going to be playing starters and have nothing to play for. But overall, you would say that the team on the left side is much better than the team on the right side. And that's because the teams on the right side are the teams that are picking at the top of the draft with the Titans, the worst teams in the league. So it's pretty unlikely that all of them are going to lose because of who they're playing against, but it's not out of the question that they all lose, the Titans win, and then they end up with the 7th pick in the draft. That is as far as the Titans can fall, but that is a massive difference. So should the Titans tank and risk building a culture of losing, as some fans would say, and also risk losing 5 spots in the draft order, or saves 5 spots in the draft order, or should they try to win this game to establish that culture of winning, to make Miss Amy proud in the Oilers throwbacks against the rival Houston Texans, and go into the offseason with some momentum and something to build on for this coaching staff and this roster?
I'm gonna throw up.
It's a dilemma that the Titans are facing. There are fans on both sides of the argument, but I think, taking it back to how you started this podcast, the lack of star power at premium positions. With the second pick in the draft, you are going to have your choice of a lot of great guys. Either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter is guaranteed to be on the board because there's only one pick in front of them. There's a chance both guys are on the board. You could have your pick of the quarterback class. If you fall in love with any of them, he's yours, essentially. If you fall to 7, Carter's gone, Travis Hunter's gone, the top 1, maybe 2 quarterbacks are gone. Heck, the top receiver could be gone. Every position that you need, the top guy at that position will be gone, as opposed to that top guy being there at 2 for you. So there is a lot of benefit to losing this game in the long run, team building, even if it does create a culture of losing for one more week. Look, the Lions had a culture of losing under Dan Campbell's first year, right? They never tried to lose, but they were bad. And then they got Aiden Hutchinson with the number 2 pick in the draft. And, a bunch of other good picks, of course, and got good. So that's the conundrum the Titans face. I think we fall on the same side here. I wanted to devil's advocate the other side because I know that you and I both agree that there is not even a debate to be had that the best thing for this team is to lose this game. But there are people who will debate it. So I just wanted to share the other side of the argument.
And I want to be very clear. I'm usually not a big fan of tanking. I think I'm a very logical person. And I'll give you an example to defend myself. I was happy when the Titans beat the Jags in Week 18 last year. There were a lot of people who wanted to lose that game and tank. Okay? I don't think rooting for losing it's obviously not a winner's mentality per se. It's not something you want to do as a fan. I did not root for a loss in Week 18 last year because A, I enjoyed the hell out of knocking Jacksonville out of the postseason, and B, I did not think the situation called for losing. This is a very different situation this year. Now, look, you could argue, well, the Titans have been better off losing that game last year. Maybe. They probably would have drafted Joe Alt if they lost that game. I know they tried to pedal down our throats that J.C. Latham was their number 1 ranked tackle. Number 1 ranked tackle. I'm calling bullshit on that. I think if they would have lost that game last year and they would have picked 5th, 6th, whatever it was, or would have been, they would have drafted Joe Alt, in my opinion, and they probably would have got the better tackle than J.C. Latham. I'll let you interrupt.
Or they would have drafted Malik Neighbors, who we know Brian Callahan was on the Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell side of things, and Malik Neighbors has been outstanding this season. There is a chance. Either one of those players, nothing against J.C. Latham. He's had a good rookie season. I don't want to say great. He's struggled the last 4-ish games or so and not played as well as he played in the first 12 games. But Malik Neighbors or Joe Alt, that's a difference-making type of player.
I agree with you. They would have been better off with one of those guys. I don't think at the time that was so glaringly obvious this time last year to have rooted for a loss. They were not competing for the number 1 pick. I rooted for a win. I was happy they won. I did not care. This year is totally, totally different. Okay. You're at number 2 overall. You've got a chance to drop all the way to 7. The difference is very obvious. Okay. If you're at number 2, like you said, you're guaranteed either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, who in my opinion are the only 2 blue chip players in this draft. And they both happen to play positions of need and they're superstars. We'll talk if they get the number 1 pick. It'll be a fun argument about trading down or taking Hunter. You want to talk about true national recognition? People talking about the Tennessee Titans. He's like the Shohei Ohtani of football right now, right? Like a 2-way star. And if he does that at the next level, that's going to be great for the Tennessee Titans on the field. It's going to be great off the field as well from a marketability standpoint. And that stuff matters to ownership. But again, not going to go there yet. But the point is, chance to take Hunter or Carter, 2 who, in my opinion, full-blown legitimate superstars at positions of need, or even the opportunity to trade down, because you're going to have a more fruitful opportunity to do that if you're picking at 1 or 2 than if you're picking later, and you're going to get more for it if that's what you want to do. If you're picking at 7, the conversation shifts to Tet McMillan, I think the receiver from Arizona, maybe one of the tackles, Kelvin Banks from Texas, Will Campbell from LSU, or even the second best edge, whoever that's going to be, we don't know yet. I'm starting to think that's going to be Jalen Walker from Georgia. I think he has surpassed James Pierce Jr., Michael Williams, yada, yada. But the point is, in my opinion, that crop of prospects is a very different conversation from Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter.
Right.
And it's different from a trade down perspective, and it's different from the quarterbacks. We don't love them. They might. The point is, you want the opportunity to do what you want to do. Right. So I'll let you interject here again.
I just want to say to some fans who are like, well, we don't know how good the seventh best player in this draft is going to be. We're always wrong about these players. The good players get drafted at 7, 8, 9, 10 every year. This is not the 2014 draft class that saw, Mike Evans go at 7, Taylor Lewan at 10, Odell Beckham at 12, Aaron Donald at 13, Zach Martin at 16, Khalil Mack at 5. Like, that was a pretty loaded draft class. And the one that we're staring in the face right now, coming up in a few months, it just isn't that loaded. It's just a weaker crop of players. And a lot of that is because NIL is such a new thing that guys, like, in a year or two, this is going to balance out, where we're going to have the guys who have played their full 4 years in college coming out. But we're in the in-between period where a couple of years ago, the redshirt sophomores were coming out after 2 years of playing, 3 years in college. And now we're in a point where those guys are staying 4 years or 5 years or even 6 years in some cases to get the extra boost in NIL money. So we're in this lull period right now where there's simply not as many guys declaring who could possibly have declared in past years if NIL wasn't a thing. So we're facing right now, this particular year, it's just a weaker crop of talent. And that is why it matters so much. Aside from all the things you said, going from 2 to 7, you're not getting the next Mike Evans, the next Odell Beckham, the next Aaron Donald, the next Khalil Mack at 7. Though, like, there's only 1 or 2 of those guys in this draft class. And sure, somebody that gets drafted later will pan out and surprise us all. But it's not going to be a lot of those. It's not going to be a ton of those guys.
Dane Brugler, who's one of the best in the biz when it comes to draft analysis, recently said, and I tend to agree with him. I might push back on Abdul Carter, but he said that Travis Hunter was the only player in this year's class that would have gone top 10 last year. The only one that would have been in the top 10 is Travis Hunter. I mean, that's just a clear indictment of how poor this class is, even compared to last year's. And I'm with you. 2026, 2027, they're both probably going to be very good. 2027 is shaping up to be historically good, right? Like, it's if all, those guys stay as long as they do. But this class is not that type of class. Personally, if the Titans drop any lower than 3, which if they win, they will drop probably between 5 to 7 if they win. I'd be disappointed. 3 is the lowest I'd be comfortable dropping with where I'm at, because I think at 3, you're probably still getting one of Hunter or Carter. Probably Carter, to be honest with you. I don't think Hunter makes it out of the top 2 picks, but I also don't think they go 1-2. Well, I think one of those quarterbacks will probably go in one of those spots. So. Right. You got to have a top 3 pick in this class if you're a team like the Tennessee Titans who need premium talent at premium positions. It's a bad class. You might be very fortunate to get one of the few blue chippers that are available. It just doesn't make sense to win this game. And look, are they going to try to win? Maybe I'm naive. Yes, I think they will. I fully believe Brian Callahan and everyone in the NFL, Gerard Mayo, who said the same thing, that they want to win this game. They do not care about, draft order. They're playing for pride. They're playing for incentives. They're playing for job security. I don't think coaches purposely lose. And I don't think Brian Callahan's going to try to lose this game. That doesn't really matter because they've been trying to win all year and they're very bad at doing it. Right. So I don't care that they're going to try, per se. I don't expect them to tank. I don't need them to tank. I need them to go out there and play Tennessee Titans football. The football that they've been playing all year long. And they'll probably lose, assuming DeMeco Ryans is a man of his word and they're going to play CJ Stroud, yada, yada.
Let's get into that now. So let's talk a little bit about this actual game. So we both agree the Titans should tank. Now the question is, will they tank intentionally? Like, I agree with you that coaches never want to lose. The question is if this happens. We saw this, in Philly a handful of years ago when they benched some quarterback for some absolutely terrible quarterback. I can't even remember the Nate Sudfeld putting Nate Sudfeld in the fourth quarter, someone like that. And it literally intentionally tanked, and it was like a humongous story. And I think Doug Peterson got fired. Was that the year he got fired?
He got fired. Yeah. He got fired.
So I don't know what was going on with that, but I do think that there are sometimes situations where the ownership and even maybe the executives, GM, president of football ops, whatever, look at the state of the roster and look at the team and say, look, Mr. Head Coach, it really would be best if you didn't win this game.
Is Amy capable of doing that against the Texans and the Oilers throwbacks?
Probably not. So that is a good point that you raised there. So anyway, let's talk about this game a little bit. The Titans have stated...
Quickly, though. I'm sorry. Good news for the Titans. They're going to be playing two Nate Sudfelds at quarterback.
Well, exactly. So here's where I was going. The Titans have announced, or Brian Callahan announced. First of all, Brian Callahan, just to your earlier point to put a bow on it, Brian Callahan was asked directly in a press conference if they look at the draft order and are concerned with where they might end up. And he was like, no, I don't even know where we're picking. I don't care where we're picking. I'll look at that when the season's over. We're focused on winning football games. And of course, he's going to say that, but we tend to trust Brian Callahan based on how things have gone for the first year here.
He knows where they're picking. I think that's full of shit, but I do believe that he doesn't.
But I do believe that he doesn't care about losing to get a better pick. So anyway, the Titans, Brian Callahan said that Will Levis and Mason Rudolph will both play in this game. And that, to me, is an indicator that maybe they are tanking, because why the hell, in what world is this the best way to go win a football game, is to rotate your quarterbacks? I mean, that is some blatant tanking type of stuff right there. And I just want to say, you made a joke in our group chat, Justin. Heed the call, listeners. I made this joke on our Thursday preview podcast. I stole it from you. I did not credit you. I just took it from you. But now anyone who listens to both shows will know where I got it from. Is that Brian Callahan said, if one of these guys is playing well, I'd hate to pull him, but we are going to play both guys. And you said,
I don't think he's got to worry about that. I don't think you got to worry about riding the hot hand. They're both going to be cold. You don't got to worry about one of them playing so well. You're like, damn, I can't put the other one in. You're going to be like, God, is there a third one I could put in? You fumbled 6 times already. It's midway through the first quarter. How do I put someone else in?
So J.C. Latham leads NFL tackles in fumble recoveries. That's how bad his quarterbacks are and how bad the offensive line
I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
So on the Texans side, DeMeco Ryans, you hinted at this. DeMeco Ryans said, and I quote, "Everyone will be out there playing." Now, he didn't commit to them playing the entire game. He hasn't said how long the starters will be playing, but DeMeco Ryans does want the Texans starters to go play and basically wash out the bad taste left in their mouth from their blowout loss last weekend to the Baltimore Ravens, because they're going to enter the playoffs in the 4 seed. There's nothing that can happen this weekend that would change that. But if you're a Houston Texans person, fan, member of the team, coach, whatever, after last week's game, when they got absolutely demolished, do you really want to just be like, all right, that's it. That's our regular season. We're going to enter the playoffs on that note. We're going to take that momentum into the postseason. Or do you maybe want to come out against a terrible Titans team and flex your muscles a little bit, get CJ Stroud going a little bit, get Joe Mixon going a little bit, have the defense make some plays, force some turnovers, make some stops. Will Anderson sacking Will Levis and Mason Rudolph, Denico Autry against his former team. Like, if you're the Texans, you want to build momentum going into the playoffs. You don't want to limp in coming off a terrible loss. So I totally get why they would start the starters. The question is, like, if they're winning 20-3 at halftime, then do we see Davis Mills and the backups come out for Houston? And does Mason Rudolph or Will Levis against backups on defense put together some kind of crazy comeback like we have seen him do once or twice in his career? That's the big question. So I think Houston will play their starters probably for the entire first half, maybe for 3 quarters. I think Houston wants to win this game because they want to go into the postseason with a win. So I think we see them until it feels like safe enough to pull the starters. I think we will see the starters, but we really don't know what Houston's going to do on that front.
No, I hope you're right. I worry it's the Buffalo Bills strategy, right? Where they get a series or 2, like a preseason game, right? And also another thing to add, and this is, we're hoping this is the case for the Texans mentality. Do you want to get swept by the Titans? Like, do you really want to get swept? Lose the 2-0 the regular season series to the lowly Titans? I don't think they care. Like, maybe this is biased of me, but like, I think I could fully see the Bills being like, let's not lose to the Patriots and let's keep them away from the number 1 pick.
Right.
I don't think the Texans will have the same mentality with the Titans, even though it's the same strategy per se, right? Like, let's not let a division rival get a high pick. Look, maybe I'm wrong. I think the Titans are so damn inconsequential. I don't think the Texans are sitting over there going, we can't let them get the pick. I don't think they give a damn. Titans are so far off the map.
Right. They're like, well, Titans will get the number 1 pick and screw it up. Who cares?
Yeah,
or it'll still
exactly.
take them 3 years to complete the rebuild, even if they get the number 1 pick. Yeah. Whereas the Bills are like, the Patriots already have Drake May. Let's lose to them. Let's not let them get the number 1 pick.
Believe it or not, there's a bit of a bigger rivalry there, I
Yeah.
think, too. Like, I had a great conversation. Well, listen, I had a great conversation the other night on the phone with John McClain. It was phenomenal. He got a copy of Titans of the South. It was
nice.
He was telling me how much, it was a very cool moment for me. But he had said to me, and I thought it was very interesting. He's talking about someone who's got the, his beat on the pulse, if you will. Said to me, he goes, that rivalry has never been as big as it should be. He goes, number one, the players do not care. They're all young and new. Like, they do not care about the history there. And number two, and this is true, they've never been good at the same time. He's like, if they were like battling for one's always been a joke while the other has been good. So it's like they were playing for the AFC South, and that happened twice, even in back-to-back years. You would see this rivalry step up a notch to where it should be, but it's not what it should be.
Yeah, I agree. But on the note of that rivalry, I think we should hit I'll Drink to That, presented by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville, because there is one element of this rivalry that kicks it up a notch, and that is that the Titans will be wearing the Oilers throwback uniforms in this game. They wear them against Houston now 2 years in a row. They've done it. It feels like that is the point almost of the Oilers throwbacks. So I am drinking to getting to see these beautiful uniforms, the best uniforms in football, in my opinion. I'm drinking to the fact that the Titans will be wearing them and not anyone from Houston, because that is a stupid idea. And anyone who says that the Houston Texans, who were an expansion franchise, should have any part of the Oilers history, doesn't know what they're talking about.
That, Dan.
Dan Hanses, cheers to you, my friend. I'm drinking to the fact that my team is wearing these beautiful uniforms and no one else will ever wear them because they are part of Titans Oilers history. The Tennessee Oilers, I'm preaching to the choir because I know Titans fans agree with me here, and nobody listening to this cares the other way. But hey, maybe we got some Texans fans hopping on the pod to see what's going on in Titans world. If you are a Texans fan listening to this, I hope you cry at night thinking about the Oilers uniforms not being in Houston. Over to you, Justin, while I actually drink to that.
I think it's really cool that the Titans are going to be honoring the 1972 Houston Oilers this weekend by wearing those throwbacks. If you're not aware, the 1972 Houston Oilers went 1-13. It was a 14-game season, and it really feels like that's the specific year they're honoring because they're a terrible football team, and that was the last truly terrible one of the last truly terrible Oilers teams that wore those jerseys. But all kidding aside, they are the nicest uniform in pro sports, in my opinion. Not just football, pro sports, period. I'm excited to see them. It does put a bit of a damper, a bit of a black cloud on it for me, to be honest with you, that they're 3-13 and just totally terrible and an embarrassment this year. But I'm looking forward to seeing the uniform. At least they won't play good, but they'll look good.
Yeah, and the one note, I think most Titans fans probably know this, but if you don't, like, this was planned out before the season started, way before the season started, before we knew how good or bad the Titans were. I've seen some people come out and be like, oh, why would the Titans want to whip these uniforms out now in the midst of a 3-13 season against the Houston Texans? They're just trying to rub it in their faces. Like, one, they are trying to rub it in their faces, yes, but they're not trying to rub the 3-13 season part of it in their faces. It's like, this is way, way, way pre-planned that these uniforms will be worn this week. There wasn't a decision made like a few days ago. They're like, oh, let's whip out the Oilers throwbacks for this game. Like that, just to clear up any confusion that may or may not exist on that front. I'll drink to that. Brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville, serving the community since 1985. Their knowledgeable staff is proud to help you with large parties, themed events, or finding something unique for a special occasion. From birthday parties to milestone celebrations to everyday moments, Sinkers can help with the right drink for every occasion. And if you head to the sinkersbeverages.com website or check the link in this podcast description, you can join the In-Crowd. In-Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. So check out Sinkers Beverages today. Justin, on the subject of the Oilers throwbacks, we've talked at length, I think, now about Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon, job safety, job security. Gentry Estes put out an article recently where he thinks that Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker should be fired and Brian Callahan should not be fired. That's crazy to me. But we are basically at the point where we've heard enough reports now that they're safe. They're largely considered to be thought of as safe heading into this offseason. I'm wondering if there's anything that could change that if they get absolutely embarrassed by the Texans, the old city of Nashville, of the Titans home, whatever I'm trying to say, in the Oilers throwbacks. Does Amy think about making an emotionally rash decision and letting them go, or is that not in the cards here?
I mean, I think there's a chance that that's within the realm of possibility. I think everyone here, to be honest with you, and maybe us too, but a lot of the beat writers kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth, because it's like, I don't think they're going anywhere, but you never know with Amy, right? Like, that's kind of where everyone is. We're just going to have to wait and see. Yeah. I will say this half measure stuff is total bull crap. Like, if you're going to fire Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker, then Brian Callahan has to go too.
Agreed.
Right? And if you're going to fire Brian Callahan, then Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker have to go as well. Like, all these guys, their fates should be tied together, is what I'm trying to say. And
I agree.
Like, even Buck said it. Oh, Rand Carthon is on Buck Ricing on shakier ground than Rand Carthon is on shakier ground than Brian Callahan. Make no sense to me. Like, who in the world? I mean, it would be John Robinson lied, I want Mike Malarkey, blah, blah, blah. Like, it would be that case again. Someone would have to take the GM job pretending they want to keep Brian. No one's coming here excited about inheriting Brian Callahan. I'm sorry. You're not inheriting Andy Reid, right? Like, no one's going to want to inherit the head coach as a first time 3-13. Like, that's not a thing. So if you're getting rid of the GM, then you got to get rid of the head coach as well.
I agree. They should be a package deal at this point. But if you were only going to get rid of one, like, I have a much more faith in Rand Carthon's side of the operation right now than I do in Brian Callahan's. And maybe that's because of just the way this season. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything for the long-term future. I do agree the best franchises, the best organizations are run by two people, a GM and a head coach, who are in lockstep, who are aligned, who meet each other in the hiring process and come together, not when one hires the other, but if one's going to hire the other, it should be the GM hiring the head coach, which did happen in Tennessee, so I'm okay with how this is set up. But if you're going to get rid of one of them and bring in somebody new, like, you might as well just completely start fresh, especially if you do wind up with the number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft. Like, you want decision makers you trust making these selections. And if you have any question about the long-term future of the guys that are in place right now, then just clean house and start over, because this is a huge, huge pick coming up. You hope you're not going to be picking this high for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And if you are, then you probably fired everybody already.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to add, and I hate to say this, but to beat a drum, but I'm indifferent in the sense of fire both, retain both. I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I just don't want to see the half measure bullshit, because I can understand both sides. Like, have they been bad enough where, I would totally understand firing both? Yes, they're that bad, they're that embarrassing. But has it only also been, a year together? Carthon's been here 2 years, but yada yada. So you want the continuity and give them another chance. I get that too. So keep both, fire both. I'm fine either way, but don't fire one and keep the other.
I agree. All right. Just a couple of little notes on this game before we wrap this up. I want to talk about Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard has 1,017 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns on the season. If he gets to 1,100 rushing yards, he gets a $250,000 incentive bonus. If he gets to 7 rushing touchdowns, he gets another $200,000 bonus. So if Tony Pollard has an 83 rushing yard, 2 rushing touchdown game, he will make $450,000 more dollars than he would have if he doesn't reach those marks. Am I rooting for Tony Pollard to reach those marks? Absolutely. Tony Pollard deserves it. He's been a consummate professional this year. He's been awesome to watch at most of the season when he's been healthy. And if he can go out there and make a little extra money, I hope he does it. I just hope that the Titans don't win 14-10 because he has 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, this kind of puts Callahan in a bit of a conundrum, because, like, if there wasn't for these incentives, there's zero doubt in my mind that Tony Pollard is sitting this game. Like, he's been playing through a painful injury most of the season, certainly these last couple weeks, a painful, nagging injury, and he wouldn't be playing. Like, you don't got to be tanking for that. It's a meaningless game. He's hurt. He's not playing. It's that simple. A lot of guys, seen a lot of Titans sit out recent weeks as the season progresses towards more meaningless games.
Right.
But because of those incentives, I think there's a pretty good chance that he suits up and they ride him. So be interesting to see what the Titans do there, because that is a bit of a tough conundrum that they find themselves in.
I feel like they're going to work to get him these incentives, at least the yardage incentives. 2 rushing touchdowns is tough, and Tajay Spears is not playing in this game, so that will give them more reason to just feed Tony Pollard. I think he gets the 83 yards. I would bet money on him getting the 83 yards. I wouldn't bet money on him getting 2 more touchdowns. That's just more fluky and tougher thing to pull off. It could happen, but I would I think he's definitely getting to 1,100 rush yards on the season. One last little note on this game. The Titans are 0-7 against the spread at home this season. The Titans actually have the worst against the spread record in I can't remember the exact stat, 45 years or something crazy like that. Titans have been so bad against the spread this year. Not that anyone really cares about the spread, but they are 1-6 straight up at home, 0-7 against the spread at home. They are favored by 1.5 points as of this recording. Now, when this betting line opened, they were 4.5 point favorites. And then DeMeco Ryans came out and said, no, everyone will be playing. And the line went like that, just dropped from 4.5 to 1.5. Why in the world are the Titans favored in this game? They're going 0-8 against the spread at home. They're about to do that. They're going to go winless.
Vegas is still scared that they're going to sit CJ Stroud after a series.
Yeah.
I think it's that simple.
That must be it. But anyway, keep that in mind as you're watching this game. The Titans have a chance to be an 0-8 against the spread at home team this season, which would just be so bad, so embarrassingly bad. All right, Justin, any final thoughts about this game, about the state of this team, about what they should do this weekend or with the draft or anything? Or should we just say, go enjoy the last week at Titansville? Here's I guess is the one thing I want to close on. We will spend the next 8.5 to 9 months anticipating and not being able to wait for the return of football in September, right? Especially after the hype machine that we're about to be put through with the free agency and the draft and everything that's going to happen to this team. We are going to be very much anticipating football in September. It's going to be a long time until that comes. So even if you're rooting for a loss, just enjoy it. Enjoy week 18. It's the last week of the regular season. We spend 3/4 of the year wanting football season to return, and then we spend the last quarter of that year waiting for football season to end because the Titans were so bad this year. But I think just sort of my message is cherish it, enjoy it. Life is short. You only get so many football seasons in your lifetime anyway. And not to be a downer, but this is it. This is it for 9 months.
That was beautiful. I'm going to go in a different direction. Cherish these next 9 months where you don't have to watch them. I think that's going to be an even better period, in my opinion. And don't fool yourself into thinking you're going to have a great time watching them. Because as much as I love that idea, normally I would go into this weekend thinking I'm going to miss this, but I'm not. You know what I mean? They're so terrible. There's no fake joy for me. And oh man, no, it was a terrible season. It was terrible. It was unfortunate that it happened at all. So I'm going to cherish these next 9 months because you're right. At some point, I'm going to fool myself into I can't wait for it to be back. And then I'm going to reminisce on the time where I was smarter than that. And I'm so glad it's over. That's the period that you should be cherishing. Be glad this Sunday's the last Sunday you've got to commit to watching them this season, right? So for the next 9, you're going to be so productive over the next 9 months. You're going to be happier. You're going to drink less. You're going to lose weight. You're going to be healthier. There's going to be so many good, positive developments for your health when the Titans finish playing this Sunday.
Well, there you go. 2 completely different sentiments to take with you into this final game. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much if you're watching on YouTube. That's where we really appreciate our viewers. Listeners, we love you. Viewers, we love you more. No offense. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Like this video, thumbs up, and leave a comment below. To tank or not to tank? Answer that question for us. What do you think the Titans should do? What do you expect them to do? What do you want them to do? Yep.
And we'll be back Sunday. Short turnaround. We will have an instant reaction episode on Sunday to the Texans. By the time we start that recording, we will probably know where the Titans are picking.
We will definitely wait. If the game is fast and finishes early, we will wait until the Bills-Patriots game is done to record so that we know at least if the Titans have the first pick. If the Titans win, we're going to be a little more up in the air, but we'll get to it next week, I guess.
But we'll know a lot because most of those games are at 1 o'clock too. Jacksonville's at 1, Carolina's at 1, the Giants are at 1. So we'll have a decent idea. But the point is, correct, Jets and neither are the Raiders. But quick turnaround. We'll be back Sunday to an instant reaction to the end of the season. And most likely, we'll know exactly where the Titans are picking. So really excited for Sunday's instant reaction episode.
Yes. So stay tuned for that. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville. And yes, as you just said, we'll be back on Sunday. So until then, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up. Last time, I got to say it. Tighten
Tricked me.
up.
Tricked me.
A Broadway sports media production.